Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. It is already Thursday afternoon. I meant to start this vlog on Monday, and yet, even though I keep telling myself that I'm getting used to being back at work, still, I'm not starting this vlog until I finish work for the week, so clearly I have not managed to get that work-life balance going on yet. But anyway, it is August, and I have a whole bunch of exciting books on my August TBR, and I'm going to start with the ones that I am the most excited about. So recently I got my delivery of A Prayer for the Crown Shy, the sequel to A Psalm for the Wild Built. So I'm going to reread A Psalm for the Wild Built, and then I'm going to read A Prayer for the Crown Shy. These are both also fulfilling prompts from the Aurelium Readathon, so that's a win as well. And I guess if you haven't heard about this series, then you haven't been watching my videos, because I've been talking about it all the time. But basically, it's a really cozy, lovely science fiction story where all the robots said, we're going to go live in the wilderness, and we would appreciate it if you never talk to us again, please, humans. And the humans had to kind of learn how to live without robots. So at the beginning of the story, we're following this tea monk who's really trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, and they go out kind of into the wilderness where they run into this robot who has come back to try and find humans and figure out how they're going, what they want. So I'm not sure where the second book's going to go, but I'm excited to read it. I know it's going to be a lovely time. I really hope I don't end up disappointed. But I'm going to start reading A Psalm for the Wild Built tonight, and then maybe read this one tomorrow, and then I don't know what I'm reading next, but we'll see. As well, audiobooks. So I have actually this week listened to an audiobook between vlogs. I listened to the audiobook of, what's it called? So Happy for You by Celia Laskey. So this is another one that fulfills an Aurelium reading prompt. This one though, I didn't really like it. I feel like the book doesn't know what it was trying to be. Like at first I thought it was just a contemporary trying to talk about marriage and how over the top people can be about marriage, and perhaps some of the issues with the way that the government and society promotes marriage, even though marriage isn't always as good as it's made out to be. But for me, I don't feel like it really analyzed the issue enough. Primarily, we're following this woman who is a lesbian and very against following the path, or what I've always called the path, but she calls it the ladder. It's kind of that typical path that people follow, you know, the most societally accepted path where you go to college, get a good job, have a nice career, get married, have children, and die. That's the path, and lots of people are on it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But our main character is really against kind of this following societal expectations, and has kind of quite a fixed belief system herself though, and she's very toxic towards her friends and family members who are trying to do things a more regular way. So I felt like I couldn't really take any of her thoughts or ideas very seriously because she was so toxic about them. And she ends up being the maid of honor for like her friend, but they're not really friends. They have nothing in common anymore. Like, they were friends in high school, and really they should have just stopped being friends or actually deal with their issues. And everything that happens at the wedding is so over the top. I do also feel like this book is trying to be a thriller. So when I was looking at reviews for this on Goodreads, I could see people who went into this thinking it was going to be really light and fun, disappointed. People who thought this was going to be a thriller, who were disappointed. There is also kind of like this dystopian element almost, where there's a lot of talk about certain people doing these wedding charms, including like animal sacrifice, to make their marriages successful marriages. And I feel like if it was going to try and go down that road, it should have gone like really hard, but instead it was just a tiny bit more extreme than what actually happens. And so it didn't feel extreme enough. It just kind of, to me, not living in America, felt like these things could be true in America, and I'm just not aware because I don't know about all of American craziness. So then I don't feel like that dystopian element added enough either. Although I did see from the reviews of people who love this, it seems like those people probably haven't read a lot of dark science fiction, and so for them it was quite extreme. But honestly, I just felt like I didn't get enough from the story. It was very short, only like a 7-hour audiobook. There just wasn't enough to it to keep me satisfied. And I hated all the characters. There was not one likable character in the whole book. And I can read books with unlikable characters, but it also needs to have a plot or a good message or something else. But it was a very character-based story with unlikable characters. So I was not interested. Definitely not for me. But anyway, I have started my next audiobook. So I've started listening to The God Emperor of Dune. And this one, it's weird. So I thought we might jump ahead in time quite a lot, but we haven't. We're still kind of following this second generation that's following on from kind of like the main characters of the first couple of books. But kind of the main character that we're following has kind of evolved to a point where they're not really human anymore. It's very weird. And I have said it's the concepts that I like in the story, but this is kind of just so weird that I don't know yet where the story's going with it. But I think I've only listened to a very small amount of it. Let me check. So I've only listened to 1 hour out of like 16 hours. So that's like 5%, not very far. I am going to go for a run. In fact, I have to finish this audiobook by tomorrow night, because then it's going to return itself to the library and it's got other people have holds, so I won't be able to get it again. So I'm going to try and finish this today and tomorrow. I've got 14.5 hours to listen to, but I'm listening at 2 times speed, so that's like 7 hours. That's a lot still, but we'll see what we can manage. I'm going to go for a long run tonight because the weather is behaving. Pretty much anytime the weather's behaving, I go for a run because it isn't behaving very often at the moment. So hopefully I can get far enough into The God Emperor of Dune that I at least know what's going on with the story and I can tell you a little bit more, although it's the 4th book, so I'll try not to spoil it. And also, like, tomorrow's Friday, so technically I'm not working, but also technically I need to send a couple of emails and attend a couple of meetings. But I slacked off a bit today to make up for it, so I think it's okay. Even though I'd rather not work tomorrow. But I'll try and keep it into a tiny box, and then the rest of the day we can also get some reading done, some video stuff done. Maybe it'll be sunny. I think it's gonna rain. But either way, I want to try and enjoy my 3-day weekend this weekend, so we'll see if we can manage it. Hello. So, if I look tired, it is because I am tired. Somehow today, even though it was my day off work, I got wrapped into doing way too much work. I was in meetings, I replied to a bunch of emails, and I got even more annoying emails, which annoyed me. And I told myself I wasn't replying to them, but also now I keep thinking about them. And I feel like somehow work just took all my brain power today, even though I wanted to do other things. The only thing I really did for myself today was that I did go for a walk and I got a new Fitbit, because my old Fitbit, this is my new one. Oh, so fancy. My old one was giving me like really weird data. It just couldn't be trusted. So I decided I wanted to get a new one, and I quite like it. It's got some new features. It's just telling me to move. It's probably right, because after I went for that walk, I just did emails and then somehow nothing else. But anyway, I should tell you about reading. So what I did do during my walk, and I have listened to it a bit since I've been back while I've been just mucking around. I've been listening to God Emperor of Dune, and I think I'm about 66% of the way through, so like 2/3 of the way through. And it's okay. I would say, like the earlier books, I always said there's so much verbal sparring, and in this, there's still like a lot of dialogue. But it's not necessarily so much verbal sparring as it is this God Emperor trying to educate people and test people as to whether they've learnt what he's trying to teach them. And it's okay, but the dialogue does go on a bit. I do find it quite interesting. I don't know that I like some of the stuff that it's kind of saying about gender, but it is an older book, so probably it's best just to ignore those parts. I wrote some notes down somewhere. I should actually look at them. Oh yeah, also with the gender stuff, there was some talk of rape that, no, I didn't really like it. I do really like how it's kind of looking into the definition of God and the impacts of religion and just the culture in general, because this God Emperor is basically trying to manipulate culture over a long time. So what I realized is this has actually jumped forward quite significantly in time. It's just that this guy, because he's not really human anymore, has lived for a long time, and kind of his knowledge of the past and the future gives him a lot of power and influence. There's also a lot of talk in here about like the difference between the official history and oral history, but also talking about how both of those can be biased and also have the potential for corruption, so you can't necessarily trust any kind of history to be the truth if you weren't there. So I think the summary is, this one, I'm enjoying the concepts like I have with the other books, but I still just don't really like the writing style. But it's okay to listen to, and I think I can finish it before it returns itself, because the odds of me doing anything else tonight are very low, so I'll just muck around and listen to my audiobook, and then I can feel somewhat productive from finishing this, even though probably I haven't really done any of the things I should have been doing. The other thing, last night, I did read this before bed a little bit, but I mucked around too long and didn't start reading it until quite late, and then I only got about halfway through, but I am really loving it. Like, it's kind of almost better than I remembered. I feel like knowing where it's going, I'm understanding it a lot better and like picking up on a lot more of the details, which is definitely making me excited to get to that second book. So we'll see if I can manage that tonight, but I don't know, because I feel like I've just lost my ability to get things done, or I used it all up at work this week, which is very annoying. But anyway, I'll go listen to this, and then we can count that as productive. Maybe. Hello, so welcome to Monday. I don't know where my weekends are going lately. I feel like 3-day weekends should be long, but I guess like relative to my previous 7-day weekends, 3-day weekends are still short, and they just seem to disappear on me. It's not that I'm not enjoying them, it's just that I'm not doing anything productive during them. But anyway, I have actually read a few things since I last talked to you, so I guess I've been somewhat productive. So firstly, I finished off reading The God Emperor of Dune, and it was okay. Like, as I said, I do enjoy the concepts. There's some lines that just really make you think, but also there's a bunch of stuff in there about gender, and especially stuff about homosexuality that is just, no, not it. Didn't enjoy reading that bit at all. And also, I found out when I was researching how many books I have left to go in this series, that in fact, it's not just like an 8-book series like I thought. Like, I thought there were 6 books that Frank Herbert wrote, and then 2 more where his son finished things off from his notes. But I've since discovered that his son then continued things. Oh no, there's a meeting coming. His son then continued things for a long time. It's like 25 books or something. I made that number up. But there's like multiple different trilogies. Some in the future from the main series, some like smattered in between, some prequels. There's so many books. And I'm not sure if I'm up for reading that many Dune books. So I guess for now, I'll focus on the main series. So then after I started listening to that, I picked up the audiobook for Here and Then and Now, I think it's called, by Mike Chen. So I'm enjoying this a lot more than the other book I'd read by Mike Chen, which was called, I don't remember, I'll put it somewhere. That one I didn't enjoy. This one is a bit better, but kind of similar in that we have a main character who in the beginning is kind of struggling with his memory a little bit. So this one, I thought it was about a guy who used to be a time travel agent, but then his daughter is now in danger, and so he uses time travel to try and save her. It's not exactly what's happening. It's more about this man who is a time travel agent, and due to events, he's now kind of struggling with his life in a past time, our present time, and also his future time, and trying to balance those 2 lives. And it's a much more like an emotional story about relationships and not so much the twisty time stuff. There's maybe a tiny bit of twistiness coming in now that I'm about 60% of the way through, but mostly it's more of a relationship story, which if you know me, I'd prefer the twisty time stuff than the relationship stuff. But still, it's not too badly written, and as well, there is a character called Penny, which I always enjoy, so that's good. But I should be able to finish that off today when I go for my run, so I'll be able to let you know how I feel about it once I finished it. Then as well, so I finished reading A Sounds of the Wild Built. Not surprisingly, I loved it so much. I loved it so much more on the reread. It was just beautiful. It's so hopeful. The characters are so lovely. And then once I finished that, I started reading A Prayer for the Crown Shy. So I'm only about halfway through this. I wanted to read the whole thing, but I just didn't have enough time, and I wanted to get to bed early last night so that I could get enough sleep so that this week we can make it through the week without being exhausted. That's the goal. And like, I think it's working because last night I had a good sleep and I feel a lot better now than I did last time I talked to you. But anyway, this book, it's so beautiful, and it's like a utopia almost, except that it's not perfect. So a lot of books about utopians, it turns out that the perfection is a lie and that it's secretly a dystopian. Whereas this one, the world isn't perfect, but it's so much better that it is a utopian compared to our system. So I think that's what I love. There's a part in here like about an alternative to money, and it's so much more about supporting community while still allowing individualism and like actually being a representation of value rather than a representation of cost, if you understand the difference between those things. Anyway, the concept of money was lovely. And just Moscap is so curious. Moscap the robot, he's always asking all this stuff, and Dex really tries to give him like considered responses that really answer his questions, even though sometimes his questions don't really make sense because he doesn't have a lot of human concepts. It's so beautiful. So I will also be trying to finish this off tonight because I really want to read it, but also I kind of don't want to finish it because I just love spending time with Moscap and Dex, and I'm going to miss them when I finish these books, but I can always reread them. And as well, I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the rest of the story. So mostly this one is about kind of Dex taking Moscap back to the human villages to visit the humans and ask them what they need. And so we're just traveling around these villages, and Moscap's asking a million questions. It's beautiful. So beautiful. Anyway, I'm updating you just before a meeting, so I best get back to work. Really, I took a break because I already have marked off 10 things on my to-do list this morning, but I've marked them all as in progress because basically I've sent off messages to other people where I need their responses to do anything else. They haven't responded, and so I end up with like 10 things in progress because I'm waiting on all of them, and it's awful. But anyway, I got a meeting, so I gotta go. But I'll catch you guys up soon. Hello. So, I have totally sucked at vlogging for the last couple of days. I don't know why. I actually felt like I was doing okay the last couple of days until last night when I couldn't sleep. So, let me update you on my other reading first. So, firstly, I finished off this. I don't remember if I told you, but I loved it every bit as much as the one before. I think I told you that already. I'm holding it upside down. I haven't slept. Can you tell? Then I finished reading this. I really loved this. The only thing that I'm sad about is the ending, because I kind of assumed there would be more books in this series, and I read the ending and I still thought there would be more books in the series, even though in some ways it is an okay ending. But still, sibling Dex and Moscap have many more adventures to have, and so I'm annoyed because reading online it seems like it's only going to be a duology, which means I don't get to go along with them on those journeys. That doesn't seem right. Why wouldn't I get to go? I just want to hang out with them some more, and like I want to see them properly work through their issues, and I'm not sure that they fully have. Yeah, I really hope we get some more, but I'm kind of afraid we won't. But still, I do think the ending was okay, and I still really love this series. I think it's beautiful. There's so many great ideas in it. Just the way that sibling Dex and Moscap interact with each other is so loving. I'm still holding this upside down. I love this series. I think it's beautiful. It's got some really lovely ideas about life in it. Definitely recommend this series. Then, since I finished that, I'm trying to remember what else I was up to when I last talked to you. I think actually I was reading Here and Then and Now. So I finished that off. It was okay. It didn't really do the twisty time thing that I was looking for. It was more of an emotional journey and kind of trying to decide where your allegiances lie between two different timelines if you have spent time in both. Like, how do you decide between your current life and your past life? How do you decide between the rules of work and your family? So it was more kind of those ideas. I do think the ending was very satisfying, very well written. So I liked it. But as far as a time travel story, I don't think it really gave me the time travel side of things. It's more a family thing. But it was fun. I liked it. Then, since I finished that audiobook, I started listening to Small Favors, which is the 11th, I think, book in the Harry Dresden files. This one, it's kind of started out quite action. A guy has gone missing. A guy who's not entirely a great guy, but it's interesting because he's a criminal, but he's kind of Harry's friend, but also his enemy. Like he's done a lot of bad things, but also sometimes he can be quite supportive, but usually just because he wants something else. But anyway, Harry is trying to save him, and there's all these fairies and other creatures around, fallen angels in this one. But actually what I would say is this one, I feel like the highs and the lows have both kind of been compressed. So Harry is not being as much of a dick. Even with his teenage mentee, he hasn't been describing her in a sexual way. I don't think at all even. So that's amazing. So like the lows that I normally experience with Harry being a dick aren't really there. And then on the other side of things though, I don't feel like the story that's happening is on the same epic level as some of the previous ones. And I'd say that's because the last book kind of peaked in certain areas, and so it has to kind of reset the bigger story again. You can't just keep escalating and escalating. And actually, I don't mind it. It kind of just makes it like a nice story to listen to. There's not too much going on, but also nothing's annoying me. But anyway, I'm about halfway through that, so I will continue that. And then the other thing I tried to do last night is I tried to start The Way of the Argosi by Sebastien de Castell. So this is like a prequel duology to the Spellslinger series following Furious Parfax, who is, I guess, kind of the mentor figure for the main character in the Spellslinger series. And she's kind of one of these Argosi who are like traveling philosophers. And she was my favorite character in the Spellslinger series, so I was excited to get her story. And I am enjoying it, but I'm about 80 pages in. And I just was finding it really hard to focus, but I really don't think it's the fault of the book. I think it's the fault of me, and my brain just was not working last night. I did find it a little bit weird. Like, it starts out with her being quite a young girl and some really quite awful things are happening to her. But Sebastien de Castell, at least in this series, has quite a light-hearted kind of joking feel to his writing. And I don't feel like that vibe fit very well with like these awful things happening to this young girl. So there are a few lines where I was like, oh, you're going to joke when you're talking about that? And just like the main character, it's like it's written first person, so she would be making a joke, and I'd be like, would you really make a joke in that situation? But it's not too bad. And just in general, her journey is really interesting. She is having some interactions with the Jamchep, which is the group of people that her mentee comes from, and they're very magically focused, but they really don't like the race of people that she comes from, so that's why she's ended up in conflict with them. What I do like about this book is there's these pages which are basically the Argosi kind of communicate through these like tarot card type things, and so there's these cards throughout the book, and they're kind of ones related to her story. So this one is like Knight at the top and Conqueror at the bottom, and then it talks a little bit about, oh, that's bright. The sun is shining very brightly outside. There's a little bit that talks about how a knight can become a conqueror. And it also talks about how the journey of the knight is not the way of the Argosi. And it kind of does a similar thing for the rest of the cards throughout the story. So I'm really liking it, actually. Just I could not focus on it last night. And I ended up just watching videos of Taskmaster on Facebook well into the night. Was that a sensible decision? No, it was stupid, especially because I had to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning this morning to do a work thing. And so now I've had pretty much no sleep. However, it is beautiful and sunny outside today. So I might go and have a walk in the sun, and hopefully that will fix my broken brain. And maybe I'll be able to focus on reading a little bit more of this tonight. Because I have the audiobook of the second book in this duology. So I'd like to get to that soon. Because once I finish Small Favors, I don't actually know what other audiobook I would pick up. So I need to finish this one. Anyway. The sunshine is calling me.
Baby, I know what you're going through. I'll be waiting up for you all night. Don't think it's too much to ask for. I'm always gonna make sure you're alright. And every time you feel afraid, like the light is far away, I promise, baby, honestly, you'll see. I'll be around to feel alone. I've been there and babe, I know what it's like. But don't think you're never gonna see this all behind you. You're gonna see the things that you apply.
Hello, so it is now Sunday, the end of the weekend. Still, these weekends are disappearing quicker than I would like. But we did get some sunshine this weekend. I feel like lately I always talk about it being sunny, and I think you just have to assume that anytime I don't say it's sunny, it's pouring with rain, and that's why I'm making a big deal about the sunny days that are actually happening. But anyway, let me update you on my reading. Firstly, I did finish off listening to Small Favors, the Harry Dresden book, and I think it didn't really change my mind. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought this one was enjoyable enough, but I still didn't think anything that happened particularly stood out. I do think the things that were happening with the fallen angels was trying to be on that epic level, but I never really felt like any of the characters were in danger, or at least not the ones that I really care about. Definitely my favorite part in this particular book is there are parts where Harry's kind of brought together a group of his friends to work on this problem, and just like their banter and them being a team was something I really enjoyed. And of course my battery died. What was I saying? I think I was talking about Harry not being too annoying for the rest of the book, but he does actually have a bit of a romance where I'm not sure how I feel about the romance. It's not really problematic though, so I guess we'll allow it. It's not entirely without its problems, but it didn't make me mad like some of the other situations where Harry has been talking about women. So it was okay. It kind of just fell into that thing though, where every single woman character ends up being someone that Harry finds attractive, and that's just like, can they not? But still, I have actually heard good things about the next book in the series, so I'm hoping that that's going to be one that I will really like, because at the moment, book 7 was still my favourite of the series. Anyway, since I finished that audiobook, I now don't have any audiobooks to read, or at least the next audiobooks I have to read are really long ones, and I don't want to start those because once I finish this, I want to read the second book in this series. And I'm hoping that I'll finish this off soonish, so then I won't have time to read any of those longer audiobooks. So in fact, what I'm going to try and do is blast through the rest of this today. I have a bit of time, and I'm just past halfway now, so I'm not doing too badly with this. And I'm actually really enjoying this. I really like Sebastien de Castell's writing style. It's very fun and fast-paced, and I love the kind of the philosophy built in, and the characters are so varied but also really interesting. And so our main character, Furious, has just met up with her first Argosi companion, and he's going to try and help her out with the problem she's got with the Jantep magic. And I'm so excited about getting more of the Argosi, and I assume she'll be learning a lot of it, so hopefully I'll learn a lot of it too. That's really the whole reason I'm reading this duology, is to learn more about the Argosi, so I'm really excited to get into that part. And hopefully I can finish the rest of this today, so that tonight when I go on my run, I can listen to the audiobook of the second one. Because otherwise I don't know what I'm going to listen to on my run, because I need to go for a run, but also I can't run without an audiobook. That's not going to work. So I'm going to blast through this, and then I'll let you know what else is happening. Hello. So yesterday I did finish off reading The Way of the Argosi, and I'm struggling to remember how it ended now, because what happened is, straight after I finished this, I opened up the audiobook and I discovered that I had to finish it by the end of the night, or it was going to return itself. And it's possible that I would have been able to get it out again straight away, but I wasn't sure. And really it's my own fault, because I've been renewing it for ages, because I just haven't been getting to it. So anyway, what I ended up doing is basically putting the second book, The Fall of the Argosi, on 2x5 speed and racing through it. I think overall, like, this was an okay story, really just introducing Furious to the Argosi and really showing like how much the Argosi were willing to go through in order to help her. And then the second book. So this one I thought was good. The second book really was quite amazing. I really loved it. I mean, it was kind of devastating, and there were parts where I was a little bit annoyed that it was doing such awful things to Furious, but then it just kind of kept escalating in a way that was really heart-wrenching. And why is a plane flying over now? Go away! Honestly, sometimes I feel like planes just circle around my house to be annoying. But anyways, in the Spellslinger series, it was kind of like every book would introduce a whole new cast of characters and a whole new magic system. And I'm just thinking now that that sounds like some of the annoyances I had with Skullduggery Pleasant series. However, in Spellslinger, I really liked it. I feel like Sebastien de Castell's creativity with his magic systems is really amazing. And in Fall of the Argosi, there's a whole new magic system around language. And I thought the way that that magic system was introduced and used in the plot was really interesting. So in a lot of ways, we've kind of got this zombie plague type plot happening, but it's related to language in the way that it spreads. But it also just leads to Farius and also Rosie, the Path of Thorns and Roses from the first book, being put in this really awful situation. And it kind of is talking a lot about how people who are trying to improve the world and fix the world can take things too far, I guess. The one thing I am sad about is because I read the audiobook, I don't know if there were any really cool illustrations in that second book like there were in the first one. I suspect there was because there were a few descriptions of different cards throughout the story. But I did overall like the audiobook narrator's performance. I think it was pretty good. So I really recommend The Fall of the Argosi. If you have read the Spellslinger series and you liked it but you haven't thought about picking up this duology, I do think it's worth it. You definitely get a lot. I'm tempted to now go and reread the Spellslinger series because all the context you get from this duology, because it's a prequel, really does frame things for the rest of the series in a different way. Even though I think you kind of find out a few of those things in the last book of the Spellslinger series, but you don't know kind of the full story. And I do also think you could probably read this duology first, if that's what you wanted to do. I looked at the Goodreads reviews and I did see that The Fall of the Argosi actually has the highest average rating of all the books of the series. Could just be because the only people who are reading that are people who are really keen on the series. But it was much higher than the rating for The Way of the Argosi. So like Fall of the Argosi, I think possibly the best book from the series. Anyway, other than that, I think we are done for this week, technically, since it's Monday now. Even though I'm well behind on editing all my vlogs and pretty much I'm behind on everything not work related at the moment, but I'm still feeling like I'm almost there. But will that almost there feeling last for the rest of the year? Quite possibly. Wow, I got distracted and now I don't know what I was saying. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me this week. Do let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video because I'd love to talk with you about them down in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well and I will see you next time.